Hello, everyone. We're going to go ahead and get started for today's Lunch and Learn session. First of all, hello, my name is Rochelle Hoffman. I'm the program manager with California Association of Museums. We are going to go over some little housekeeping items before we get started with our program. Today's program is called Strategies for Utilizing Teen Volunteers in Small Museums. So today our webinar is being recorded. It'll be posted to CAM's YouTube page sometime next week. You'll get a follow-up email when it is ready to go. We will have live captioning available currently. The link will be posted in the chat. Our community engagement manager, Tiana, will go ahead and post that. And if you're having any kind of like tech issues or anything like that, you can send her an email at engagement@calmuseums.org, and we'll put those in the chat momentarily as well. The chat will be open for today's session at the beginning, at the end, and during the middle. We might have it closed just so the presenters can kind of focus on their content, but we would love to hear from you all. And we have the Q&A open throughout the session as well. There is a function kind of at the bottom of your screen here where you can post anything you want to know to our panelists. All righty, let's see. And our captioning today, I should add, is provided by the National Captioning Institute. All righty. So if we go to our next slide, we've got a little brief land acknowledgement. As we begin this event, we acknowledge and honor the original inhabitants of our various regions. A land acknowledgement is a critical step towards working with Native communities to secure meaningful partnership and inclusion in the stewardship and protection of their cultural resources and homelands. Our institutions were founded upon exclusions and erasures of Indigenous peoples. We honor and are grateful for the land we occupy and recognize the ongoing damage of settler colonialism. Let's take a moment to honor these ancestral grounds that we're collectively gathered upon and support the resilience and strength that all Indigenous peoples have shown worldwide. I'm on the traditional territory of the Chumash, Fernandino, Tataviam, and Gabrielino Tongva peoples here in North Hollywood. And I encourage you to name and acknowledge the Native peoples where you're located. You can use the chat box for that, and we'll add the link to a really excellent resource, nativeland.ca. We'll put that in the chat too. All right, so that's just some brief housekeeping from us. I'm really excited to introduce our panelists for today, our presenters. We have Stevie and Daniel presenting from the Gilb Museum in Arcadia, and they've got some excellent content for us today. Their session was really popular at the CAM conference that we held in Oakland earlier this year. So I'll go ahead and hand it over to them.
Thank you. Alrighty, I'm gonna be sharing my screen with everyone. Can everybody see the presentation? Perfect. Well, once again, thank you so much for inviting us to be a part of this Lunch and Learn. My name is Stevie Acevedo. I'm the curator here at the Gilb Museum of Arcadia Heritage. Joining us today is also Daniel Estrada, who is our museum education coordinator. Today we will be discussing strategies for utilizing teen volunteers in small museums. And at the end of the program, if you have any questions or if you would like any of the documents that we talk about throughout our presentation, feel free to email us at museum@arcadiaca.gov, and we'd be happy to share that as well for your future teen volunteer opportunities as well. So to get started, the Gilb Museum of Arcadia Heritage is run by 2 full-time staff members, one primarily a volunteer coordinator, which is a museum education coordinator, and one secondary volunteer coordinator, which is myself, the curator. Typically, I work mostly with our adult volunteers, but at times I do also work with our teen volunteers as well. The Gilb Museum of Arcadia Heritage is a local history museum that is owned and operated by the city of Arcadia here in Southern California. In 2019, the staff of the Gilb Museum was completely replaced. So prior to this, the Gilb Museum only had about 14 teen volunteers who came sporadically and completed about 200 cumulative volunteer hours per year. As you might know, for volunteers to just come sporadically, it's not really ideal because you really don't know what and when projects are going to be completed. So it's really nice that we've been able to change that since then. It took about a year for the new museum staff to completely transform the teen volunteer program, which is what we'll be discussing today. So from 2001 to 2019, teens were able to apply to be volunteers by picking up a physical application from the museum and returning it. So it was on a yearly basis. They can just come and pick it up. There was no specific deadlines or anything for them. Teen volunteers were also allowed to come and volunteer at their leisure, so as long as the museum was open and staff were present. As we kind of just discussed, that's not always ideal, just because you never know when they're going to show up and if you even have any projects for them to do. Teen volunteers were given a variety of tasks. In addition to staffing, they would also be asked with creating flyers and choosing food for events. Not knowing what the budget is for the museum, that's very, very problematic, because they don't know what our budget is for certain events and stuff like that. So that was very confusing when we were trying to change that up for them. Prior to 2019, the Gilb Museum only had about 20 teen volunteers that only came about 3 or 4 times a year. Again, not having a consistent team was problematic, so we've been able to change that since then. So in 2019 to the present time right now, prospective volunteers can apply by filling out an online application via Google Forms found on the museum's website. In that form, we're able to ask them for what pronouns they like to be known for. We ask them about any allergies they might have. We ask them their t-shirt size, since we give our volunteers t-shirts. And we also ask for any other emergency contact just off the bat, so we can just get it all at once when they apply. So potential volunteers also get interviewed by staff before becoming volunteers here. And they also have a signed volunteer agreement they have to fill out. The volunteer work agreement tells them what expectations we have for them, but it also is known that parents are also aware of what we expect from them, because parents also have to sign it if they're under 18. All city volunteers must complete a pre-employment addendum and life scan. Since we are a city entity, we do have to ask for a pre-employment addendum, which basically just states that they haven't committed any crimes and they're willing to get a live scan. And a live scan is basically just a background check to make sure that they are A-OK to work or volunteer for the city of Arcadia. And again, the live scan, one thing to note is that the city of Arcadia pays for it. It's typically about $75 for volunteers, so it's great that we're able just to take on that cost. So it encourages them to be volunteers and not worry about having to pay anything out of pocket while volunteering here. Volunteers are also required to volunteer on a semi-regular basis. Volunteers are only allowed to volunteer in shifts, which is something we'll discuss in a little bit, which has become really helpful for us, especially with organizing schedules. We do offer opportunities for growth. Teens can apply to be teen volunteer leaders or have some curatorial internships, and those curatorial internships are super helpful, not only for them to get experience, but also for our team, since we are just a staff of 2 people. Team volunteers with over 100 hours are also given the Presidential Volunteer Service Award and are also recognized by the City of Arcadia at our annual Volunteer Appreciation Dinner for the city. So what are teen volunteers looking for? Of course, when we talk about what teen volunteers are looking for, it includes professional development. Many teens are looking for opportunities to highlight their experiences on resumes. Some want to build skills or gain insight into the working world. So even just doing customer service, sitting at our front desk, engaging with people during our events, those are all things that can help them build up those skills that they want to achieve. The most common skill that teens are trying to build at the Gilb Museum is public speaking. As I mentioned before, just communicating with the public gives them a little bit more of an opportunity to feel comfortable talking to others. I know teens especially are sometimes in their own bubble, so it's really nice to have them to get the opportunity to talk to others as well. Another thing teen volunteers are looking for is to be valued. Teen volunteers like to be appreciated. The Gilb Museum does celebrate the teen volunteers twice a year at the end of the summer and at the end of the year. So our volunteer appreciation events are considered volunteer time and team building time. So we do give them the opportunity to bond with volunteers, and also this might be the opportunity for them to learn a little bit more about one another. The next thing is teen volunteers are looking for to gain agency. I'm so sorry with all the beeping. My printer's trying to get a fax because that's how old school we are over here. So teen volunteers are looking for gaining agency. Teens often seek opportunities outside of school to get this opportunity just to do extracurricular activities. Teens often look for opportunities where they can feel like they are creating, impacting, and changing things in their community, which once again, they help us create these different events that we have for the community in the city of Arcadia and all of San Gabriel Valley. So in looking at the mission and structure, the mission of the Gilb Museum's team of teen volunteers is to support educational programming, help the museum engage with Arcadia community, give tours, and help out in events. One thing to highly impose right here is that it is important to remember that teens are not paid staff members, personal assistants to us. They are not researchers, they are not janitors, they're not our children, and of course, they're not seasoned professionals. So if you do get questions, always be welcome, be a welcoming space for them and a safe space for them to feel comfortable enough to ask you questions or, you know, just help you around the museum. So throughout the year, we do have 2 different shifts that we give them. We have a school year shift where since students do go to school Monday through Friday, they only volunteer on Saturdays. We do have 2 shifts. We have a morning shift that's from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. and an afternoon shift from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. So volunteers are also welcome to volunteer all day if they want to. So we just ask them to bring lunch or something, a snack, so they can be here all day with us. We do also break shifts, winter, spring, and summer breaks. That's when teens are available to come in every day that we're open at the museum. From Tuesday to Saturday, we have a morning shift, 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And we also have a afternoon shift again from 1 p.m. to 4 p.m. Again, if they want to volunteer all day, they're more than welcome to. What we end up doing is also providing them snacks. So if they get hungry while they're here and they forgot to bring a lunch, we always have a couple of noodles on standby, chips. We have drinks for them, and it's the least we can do, especially with them dedicating all the time that they do to the museum. So I'm going to pass it along to Daniel now, who will continue our talk.
Hello, just to reintroduce myself, my name is Daniel Estrada. I am the new museum education coordinator here at the Gilb Museum. I've been here since May, and so this is my first CAM conference. So again, just want to thank you all for having me here, and I'm so excited to hear some of your questions at the end. Just to get started, we do have some clear expectations for our teens, and we do lay that out in something they receive out of an orientation called the Teen Volunteer Work Agreement. And this is kind of a document that basically lays out the shift schedule, the hour requirements for being a volunteer, and the importance of communication. We typically require teens to volunteer at least 25 hours in order to earn any type of letters of recommendation or letter of volunteer verification. This document also does inform parents of what is required of all volunteers. And we do want to let you know that if you are interested in receiving a copy of any of our forms or documents, please let us know. We'll add our contact information at the end of the program, and Stevie and I will be more than happy to share them with you. Have the next slide, please. Every shift, we assign teen volunteers tasks. Again, this is a museum of 2, so unfortunately, we are unable to oversee all of the volunteers as they complete their tasks. Therefore, the Teen Volunteer Leader Program was created, and basically, we appoint certain leads. Typically, they're usually either juniors or seniors, and we explain the tasks to them in detail, and then it is their job to oversee the other volunteers, make sure everything is up to production, and oversee quality checks as well. To be a teen lead, you do have to apply on an annual basis. So again, since most of them are typically seniors, we do have a pretty quick rotation of teens. So we try to keep the application as open as possible and open to as many teens as possible. And again, this position is not guaranteed each year. They do have to go through an interview process each time. And if you take a look to the document on the right, this is an example of our task list. We do assign teen leads at every shift. For example, on this sheet, the leaders are Nina and Lugini. Usually we will place them at the front desk and they will be our museum greeters. We trust these teens to be the first face that people see in the museum. When they come in the morning, we open at 10, so our volunteers come in at 9 a.m. And our teen leads will usually put up our iPads, they'll turn on our exhibition TVs and kiosks, and later on they'll be placed at the front desk, and they'll in addition to being the museum greeters, they'll also hand out our educational kits and log that on a Google spreadsheet that we have. We have several different locations where the teams will typically work. For example, we have a kids corner / research library. That is also their work area. So that's where they'll prepare outreach program materials for us, educational programming supplies. Our teen volunteers also do assemble our educational kits and perform quality checks to ensure everything is nice and ready to go. Even some of our teens have actually designed some of our stickers or social media posts. Recently, we actually had one of our volunteers design a tote bag celebrating Arcadia's 120th anniversary. I don't know if you want to plug that in, Stevie, just to give them a preview. We're very proud of it. She did spend a lot of time and we were able to give her hours for this. And we just got them yesterday, actually. So if you can see at all, we do have some famous landmarks in Arcadia. If you've ever visited, we do have the Derby. At the LA County Arboretum, there was a Tongva settlement called Aliupkigna, so we were sure to include that in there. The Gilb Museum, of course, is on there, and Stevie and I are on there if you take a closer look. So if you come in, please grab a tote bag. They will be free. Teens will also work in our building we call the MEC, or the Museum Education Center. And that's kind of where they'll make our excavation kits for some of our programs, or if I trust them enough, I'll give them the keys to our closet where they can go run in and grab supplies. And sometimes we do run out of tasks during our slower periods. So we also have our teens transfer files from floppy disks using our old Toshiba laptops. And they get a kick out of that because they're like, what's this? We do provide several opportunities for growth for our teen volunteers. Again, when they come in, they are searching and hoping to leave with educational and professional experience that they're able to take with them wherever they go. So some of these opportunities include the Teen Volunteer Leader Program. As I've stated previously, we do have some summer teen internships here. We previously had a collections intern. They will assist Stevie with collection projects, learn about the curation process, including digitization, accessioning, and curating. And they'll also sometimes help Stevie with exhibits around the city. We do have little mini pop-up exhibits like in City Hall, Arcadia City Hall, Arcadia Public Library, and our council chambers building. And it's a very great opportunity because not a lot of museums allow their volunteers to go near the collection space. So it is a very unique opportunity for our teens, and we want them to take as much advantage of that as possible. During the pandemic, we've had a virtual oral history intern, and these interns went out virtually into the community to collect personal stories from individuals. One of the themes was oral histories of experiences from people living during certain time periods of Arcadia. We also encourage our teen leads to become our teen tour guides so that they can hone in on their public speaking skills. We, of course, offer the tour in English, and the community of Arcadia is incredibly diverse. So we do like to utilize the teens that might happen to be multilingual, just so we can better serve our community. And we've actually had some teens transcribe our tour scripts in several different languages, and we currently have the tour offered in Mandarin, Vietnamese, and Tamil. In turn, we also support in applying for National Honor Society for our teens. We do sometimes create other internship positions for them as well, and other volunteer opportunities around the city or wherever they would like to go. We have previously also connected volunteers with past teen volunteers. Sometimes when they go off to college. So we kind of like to connect them just so they can provide advice, become kind of a mentor when college application season starts. We do offer support and growth for our teens, and that can be manifested in several different ways. Support to us means creating a comfortable environment. We make sure to be open and allow our teens to talk without value judgment. We do stress gender neutral pronouns to refer to all of our volunteers, and we do ask for their preferred pronouns when they do apply. And if we have them do a task that they might be uncomfortable with, we do ask for consent first. And this is, of course, is like sitting at the front desk or being filmed for social media or even giving a tour. We want to make sure that they're completely comfortable and okay, even if it might be a challenge for them. We do stress that we want to create a safe space for our teen volunteers, as this can lead to many different opportunities, again, such as applying for the National Honor Society. Stevie did mention the Presidential Volunteer Services Award. I believe the requirements are if you are 15 and up, you have to do 100 hours, and we do actually have some middle schoolers that are technically teenagers aged in between the age range of 11 to 14. So they have to do 50 hours, and a couple of our volunteers in that age range are actually able to get the Presidential Service Award as well, which is pretty cool. We also help them gain recommendation letters for college, and we do offer ourselves as job references for the future. So it's important, if you do work with teen volunteers, to ask them what their goals are and work around what their strengths are, definitely. And because they show consistent dedication, we do always celebrate their achievements after a very busy season. For example, in July, we had a summer enrichment program. So every Saturday we had 2 sessions of an educational program. And that was a lot of work for our teens. And again, I do want to acknowledge and thank them for all of their hard work, because I would not have been able to do it without them. So we had a brunch event the week after, just to, again, celebrate all their hard work and achievements. And we also included the adult volunteers. These 2 age groups don't always have the opportunity in the museum to kind of intermingle. So we took that as an opportunity to do some team building between these 2 age groups and really kind of instill that sense of camaraderie and that they're a part of the Gilb team. And everybody had the opportunity to win some gift cards. So nobody complained about that. They went home with some Starbucks gift cards and Amazon gift cards. So we do spoil them. I will say we do spoil our teens a lot. Just to note and kind of brag a little bit, this summer we've had the most volunteers at our museum. We've reached over 50 teen volunteers, and to date they've clocked in about 2,300 hours. Our teens are a vital resource at our museum, and we do try to give them all the professional and education experience that they can, so that they're able to take that with them and apply it towards their other aspects of life. We also give them t-shirts. So every teen does get a t-shirt. They're required to wear that during events or programs that we might have. But once they do reach a certain amount of hours, we do give them a sweatshirt or hoodie. And a couple things to remember, teen volunteers do not always have complete control over their schedules, unfortunately. So we do tend to add specific dates to our calendar, such as testing seasons, minimum days or holidays, any sports or theory events, any other extracurricular activities that they might be involved in. Sometimes during breaks, teens will travel with their families. And our volunteers tend to be heavily involved in extracurricular activities and academic studies. Some of our volunteers take 3 to 4 AP classes. So that means those things will generally take priority, and that's definitely okay. We do stress that, education comes first. And in these cases, we do realize that some teens take volunteer time to socialize. If they're heavily involved, maybe all their time goes to studies and clubs, they might use volunteering here as a time to break away from all those responsibilities and stresses from school. And that's why it's also always nice to have volunteers from local campuses like Arcadia High School, because then they get to meet people that are in private school or other students who have volunteered here. We've had individuals come from even San Marino. So it's nice to show the teens that there's more life and community just outside of the local Arcadia area. Another thing to remember is that volunteers don't always have control of their modes of transportation. Since we are local to some campuses, we do have teens that walk, and just recently we installed a bike rack, and some of our volunteers are able to take advantage of that, which is really nice. And when teen volunteers come in, they typically have little to no experience, so mistakes are definitely bound to happen. So Stevie and I do stress that it's important to practice patience and kindness in order to nurture their educational and professional development to their full potential. And again, I do want to stress that teens are not at the museum to do busy work. As previously stated, they're not our assistants, they're not our researchers or janitors. So here at the Gilb, we do like to make them feel that their work is valuable. And that concludes our presentation. Again, we are the Gilb Museum of Arcadia Heritage. Come visit us anytime, 380 West Huntington Drive, Arcadia, California. If, again, you want to reach out to Stevie and I regarding any of our documents or forms, you can call us at 626-574-5440, or you can reach out to us at our email, museum@arcadiaca.gov. I do want to do a quick plug here. If you have any educator friends, they are welcome to visit our website, arcadiaca.gov/museum, and we do have some resources for educators out there as well. Stevie, is there anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, if anybody is also planning to attend the Western Museum Association conference that's going to be in Pasadena, we are not too far away. We're neighbors. You're always welcome to come visit us over here too. But thank you so much.
Thank you, you two. I loved hearing about what an impressive kind of like turnaround as well. I have questions, and we've got one or two in the Q&A as well. Feel free to post any questions that you have. You can use the chat or you can use the Q&A function. Becky is wondering if you could describe your volunteer appreciation events maybe in more detail. I know you kind of touched on that. And then I also want to add, like, I know you talked about maybe like an end of year appreciation. What are some ways that maybe you show appreciation throughout their time, maybe not at the culminating kind of event?
Daniel, want to take this one on?
Yeah, so I guess I'll address the volunteer appreciation event first. So this was my first year being a volunteer coordinator and also coordinating, all the events that we put on for them. I don't want to say it was last minute, but I did take the week to kind of plan that out. I did all the decorations on our Cricut, our handy dandy Cricut. Shout out to Cricut. Without that, I don't know what I would have done. But I won't lie, I kind of winged it. Luckily, I've been told I'm a good MC, so I kind of just took the time to appreciate every volunteer. I did make certificates. I myself try to get to know each volunteer individually. So as they're working, I'll kind of pop in, do some of the tasks that I can do with them, and just kind of talk to them, see what their interests are, kind of banter a little bit. The teens are fun to banter with. And that's kind of my way of showing appreciation, because I've had jobs before where nobody will talk to me, and it can kind of get dehumanizing, especially since they're not getting paid for their time and they're essentially donating their free time to us. So I do try to make them feel as appreciated as humanly possible. But in regards to that, again, I did certificates. The certificates were kind of themed after their personality. So for example, one of our teens, Shashank, he's incredibly tall, and sometimes there are things overhead that I have to climb a ladder, but when he's here, he can grab it for me. So during his when I gave him his certificate, it was like, this goes to the best overhead over retriever, and things like that. So I made every certificate personal to each of the teen volunteers that attended. During the event, one of the team building activities was, if you have ever heard of Jackbox, we played some Jackbox games. The fun one that they did was called Civic Duty. So it kind of goes in rounds. You have to design a community mural. And so each winner of each round, they'll all draw something and then they vote. And then the one that wins the next round, they'll have to, work on top of that. So some of them had to work together, and it was kind of like just all fun and laughter, which was really awesome. And we did provide them with food. We got them Mimi's Cafe. We do spoil our teens, because we like to make sure they're appreciated, and our adults as well. They were also at the event.
We also contacted Starbucks, who provided free coffee for us for the event. So you can always reach out to your local Starbucks and see if they can provide free coffee. So we were able to get coffee. We're still drinking that coffee today because we never finished it. But just giving them something like nice like that, just a breakfast, definitely makes a difference with their experience being here at the museum, knowing that they have something to look forward to for all the hard work they did in the summer. During the winter, we haven't gotten there yet, but we'll definitely give them some other type of breakfast similar to the one that we did this year in the summer. And then we'll provide them more gifts like a tote bag, or we did give them drawstring backpacks as they came to pick up their award that had like chips and snacks and pencils, and it was just like a little drawstring backpack with our logo on it that they can take to school or go use around the city and stuff like that. And then people also, it's kind of a way for us to also market with our teens wearing our material there. So that's really helpful for us to do as well. So yeah, I think it came out to be a really good event and a really
Yes.
good turnout as well.
Yeah, they did. It was nice because the whole week I was just stressing out, oh my God, they're gonna hate it. It's not gonna be extravagant and beautiful,
Like,
but
it's
everyone,
okay. It's
yeah,
fine. It's
but
gonna be
everyone,
okay.
it was really rewarding that everybody did love it and everybody did appreciate it, especially the adults as well, because previously, again, as I stated before, they weren't really coagulated or given that time to kind of intermingle and understand the responsibilities of both. So it was nice to have both age group of volunteers kind of be together in one place.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing a little more insight.
Yeah.
We've got a few more questions coming in. How do you all recruit teen volunteers? And I also am curious to know how the, I don't know, how quick did that process pick up as it, as you kind of revised your whole strategy? And yeah, if you could speak to your kind of recruitment process, that would be really helpful.
I know Stevie can expand on this, but from what I've learned, again, social media posts, Instagram is very big for at least that age group of audience. So we do post a lot when we're recruiting. We actually had to close our applications this summer because I was around at 50 and we were gearing up for a summer enrichment program. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to interview everybody and do this program. So we kind of capped it off at 50 and but it ended up being rewarding because I got to work with like a pretty consistent team. So I did get to know a good group of teen volunteers individually. Another recruitment process is when we do outreach programs, we do have like a little poster saying, if you want to volunteer with us, come join, give us your email. We do contact the school districts as well. I don't know if they like send out a mass flyer, but we send it to the district and they somehow kind of spread the word as well. I know word of mouth is really huge. We do have parents sometimes apply for their teens because they want their teens to do something, have a project. And we also do provide paper applications if they don't get to the Google form first. If there's anything I missed, Stevie, how did you guys do it?
I would say one thing that's really helpful for us too is that we're the Department of Library and Museum. So we do put our applications in the past, like as a notice over at the library. If the library has too many volunteers, we're always happy to take on their volunteers. That's how we kind of started to first recruit them. The library gets about 50 volunteers as well during the summer. So any volunteers that don't make the cut for them, we're always happy to take them on over here. But it's kind of nice because now we've built our own group. One thing, also word of mouth from these teams, like lots of these teams end up bringing their friends to come volunteer. And then it becomes like a whole little party for them. It's always exciting, like, well, if Nina's coming, then I'm coming too, like it just becomes this thing. Reaching out to the counselors, letting them know about volunteer opportunities here. As Daniel mentioned, when we do outreach programs around the city, we also like to take our flyers and again just using our promo material with our teens wearing these volunteer t-shirts. Like people know, like, oh, okay, there must be an opportunity there for our teens. And we are very involved also with the school district. So when we go to PTA meetings, we also promote that we're accepting volunteers all the time. So then that's when all the parents start coming to us again, like, my child has nothing planned this summer. How can they get involved with you guys? And we do also accept volunteers on a yearly basis as well, not just because the summer ended, we're not accepting any more volunteers. We do have volunteers that end volunteering for the summer and they're not planning to come back. So then we open the application up again, but we do want their feedback to see how we did or what things they noticed would be a way for us to improve. So we do ask for volunteers to fill out an exit form. And that usually gives us also feedback that we need, not only from our teams to know more about like, what can we do to like strengthen our team, but also like we want more snacks. That's always like the biggest thing that teams always want, chips. I don't know how many times I've had to run this summer to the store to buy more chips for them because they just go through them really quickly. But again, it's like that little gift of eating a bag of chips during their break is super exciting for them. But yeah, that's kind of like the way that we've been recruiting them.
One big feedback we get is more hot Cheetos. Apparently that's like the snack to get people in is hot Cheetos.
Hot Cheetos, we bought a box of 50 hot Cheetos and they went within a week. So we should just get a promotion deal to support hot Cheetos here.
Also, in regards to recruiting, sometimes we have siblings come in as well. So older siblings, if they're juniors or seniors, they'll see what their younger siblings will see what they're doing, and then they'll just end up on our doorstep, which is really nice as well.
We've got more questions coming in. Is there any advice you could give to a museum that wants to explore a teen volunteer program?
Stevie, do you want to talk about how you developed it or how you kind of launched it?
Yeah, I would say don't be scared of teens. I know that's always like the big thing. Like we always love having those adults or retired individuals because, you know, they're adults and they know what to do. But don't be scared about having teens in your space. Again, in the past, I was really scared about having them work with our collections, for example. But it actually has been very beneficial. Our collections, unfortunately, are backlogged like in many museums. So giving them a project where you know that they're going to be mature enough to take on a project on their own and ask questions has been really beneficial for us here at the museum. There's been times where honestly, I trust our teen volunteers more with projects than I do with our adults. One example is exhibit panels. So to create exhibit panels, you have to use an X-Acto knife. There have been some adults I've been training that scare me when they use an X-Acto knife, yet when I have a teen do it, they're cautious, they're doing it great. And I do give credit to these teens when they work with our exhibits as well, putting their names up in the exhibits, curated and done by so-and-so and so. So it's great to always give them that experience. And I would just say also take a look at like what task can you give them, because that's going to be one thing that's really important. You don't want just people to stand around, but you want to make sure like if you have a large event coming along, like this weekend we have Dino Day, that we have enough volunteers to help us prep for those big events. We expect about 200 to 300 people. So like all those projects can be done. So if you have any big projects going on, I would highly recommend you use that as like an opportunity to kind of explore having a teen program, because those teams can help you develop those programs. There's been other programs here like our educational kits program that we have at the museum. It's become very popular to the point where we need help from our teams to construct these kits. It used to just be staff that created these, but now it's teams. We create about 200 per educational kit, which we give out every 2 months. So the teams even also give us input like, hey, in this next kit that you guys are going to do on insects, for example, can we talk about spiders? And we'll include them to be participants in also creating these lesson plans, because you never know this experience, how it's going to impact their future. Some of these teams will become museum professionals at some point, possibly, or maybe they won't, but then they'll always cherish the experience that they had here at the museum in their future exhibit experiences or museum experiences.
So, okay, another question I have is, I think a lot of us know in museums, we all wear many hats, especially in small museums. The kind of breadth of your work can be quite a lot. How do you balance, obviously you put a lot of care and effort into this program. How do you balance that with your regular kind of day-to-day work levels?
Do we just run around, Daniel? I don't know, with our hats up in the air.
Well, it's kind of a transitional year, I guess, for the Guild, because this is my first time. I think I'm still kind of getting the flow of like, okay, teen volunteers, you know, other tasks that I have to do. It's kind of like the thing that's helped me the most is assess their task list, and also understand who's coming in. That's why it's important to kind of have the leaders and also have that schedule of people signing up for shifts. I think that's really helped me, because then I know, okay, who works best doing this, or who works best doing that, who works best at the front. It's been helpful to kind of have that task list, and then kind of pushed me creatively to use their skills use their strengths as much as possible. Because then that way, especially with the teen leads, the teen leads is a very important part that actually lets me balance, because then I don't have to worry about, overseeing anybody, kind of peering over their shoulder, like, hey, you're kind of doing that wrong. I think the team leads actually do really help with that balance as well.
Yeah. I would recommend just like, we do have a Google Calendar, which we go off. So we do schedule times where we do discuss within our department of two, what's going on. We also give updates to our director about these things, like, okay, so we have these events going on. How can we take out some time so we can dedicate to our volunteers for other projects that we need them to focus on? And again, those large events are usually the ones that we need a lot of help from our teams, especially like this week we have Dino Day. During December, we have Make Your Own Snow Globe. So we do depend a lot on our volunteers for those different things, but just trying to create a balance, but also having them get the opportunity to feel like they can come up to us and ask us questions. Like for those teams that have been interested in collections, we do, I always have an open door policy, so I always let them just come in and ask me questions or just tell me how their day is going and stuff like that. And that really makes a difference, because then they're like, well, I really like to work in the summer with you with your collections. And I was like, okay, like let's have you apply, tell me what your interests are, and then we can discuss it. We've had Rajan, for example, this summer, again, work with our Arcadia Women's Club collection that we've been working on since 2019, curating and digitizing it. And she actually was able to go through and like even digitize more of our collections, especially, I guess, like a highlight for me is like digitization, or even like any type of technology project. Like teams really excel in that. So even just photographing our collections has been super helpful, because then our database has photographs now of these artifacts, and creating Excel sheets is a really new thing for them. But then that's some type of experience that they're going to get with skills that maybe their future job gets. So these are all, it's not just not useful for them, it's always going to be useful for them, the things that they learn here.
I love the floppy disks that you mentioned
Those
earlier.
floppy disks, they don't love it, but it's helping us. We have like over 200 floppy disks that have information on them, but we've had to like take out one of our old laptops just to be able to see what's on these floppy disks. And we're always like, if you guys have nothing else to do, we're going to do the floppy disk project. And they're always like, no, we got stuff.
Oh, that's awesome. And on a kind of related note, we have a question. What is the process for signing up for shifts week to week?
So there are 2 days where I'll email the volunteers. I keep a list of all active volunteers we use Microsoft Office. So I put them all in a group and I message them on a bi-weekly basis on Tuesdays and Fridays. Tuesdays, I'll kind of say, okay, hey, we have this going on this week. We'll need to be working on this, that, and the other. Please let me know your availability, and for those who can sign up. Then from there, they'll reply like, hey, Daniel, I can work Thursday from 9 to 12. Can you sign me up? And then from there, I have a Google spreadsheet, which actually, if anybody would like to see it, I'm more than happy to show it. It's been very helpful. So we'll split up, since we're open Tuesday through Saturday, I'll have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday through Saturday, and then we'll have slots. One thing I do recommend is kind of capping how many volunteers that you do have. There have been days where we've kind of had maybe 10 to a dozen, and it does get kind of overwhelming, especially because sometimes they do tend to breeze through the tasks very quickly. So capping it at around maybe 6 to 8 is incredibly helpful, because then you also get to kind of get to know them on kind of like an intimate level, which is really nice as well. But I'll email them, they'll send me their availability throughout the week. Then Friday, I'll send, hey, this is the last schedule. Please email me before 4 o'clock today if you'd like to sign up for tomorrow's Saturday shift. We have this X amount of spots open. And then I'll also send them the PDF form of that schedule that I have, just so they have a visual of who's coming in. And on that schedule, I'll also have, like, say it's a Saturday and we have a program, it'll say, oh, Dino Day is on this day, or we have a workshop that day. Just so they kind of know what they're working, just so they kind of know what's going on when they come in.
Thank you. I have a kind of a museum attendance related question. You kind of talked earlier about how like word of mouth is so helpful, and they love to kind of, oh, if so-and-so is going, then I want to be there. Do you see that reflected in your museum attendance? Like, do you find that because you have such a strong teen volunteer program, do you have a lot more teens kind of coming of their own volition to your space? Yeah, does it impact your attendance?
Yes, and then also I think I've always taken teen volunteers suggestions to heart. So for example, here in the city of Arcadia, Mark Twan, who is a famous K-pop singer, actually grew up and went to Arcadia High School. So we put him in our Arcadia Walk of Fame. So we have noticed teens know that he's in the Arcadia Walk of Fame exhibit, so they actually come and look at it now. Or our teens will tell us like, hey, we really, you always just talk about the Arcadia High School band, but you don't talk about the track team. So in our 120th anniversary right now, I did put up a section on the track team and the amazing work that they've been able to do, and even put up one of their shirts up on display. And it's like, okay, now the track team's all coming in. So just giving them like something where they can relate to as well within our exhibits is always super helpful as well, because then that kind of gives them the encouragement like, oh, okay, like I'm being represented in this local history museum, versus like learning about the old usual history that you might learn about in a local history museum. We definitely take those different notes that they give us to also become a little bit more inclusive with our community in that sense. But yeah, we do see a lot of teams starting to come in, especially if we put up those K-pop singers, for example. They'll definitely come in and check it out and see what we have on them.
Also, just to add on that, some of them do have little siblings, so some of their parents will actually bring their little siblings to our programs. We did have a couple of parents of volunteers bring their younger siblings to our summer enrichment program, so that also does increase attendance as well, because they're like, oh, there's a museum here, let me go check it out. And we do offer a scavenger hunt as well that young community members are able to do in Enterprise. So.
And again, I think it's great when teams are able to also share word of mouth. Like all our programs at the museum are free, our admission is free, everything we provide to the community here is free. So that's also super helpful. Like when we go to PTA meetings being like, we're starting our free program, it's like, okay, good, because we were trying to figure out what to do this weekend, for example. And that lets us bring more awareness to our little museum, compared to maybe a larger museum that doesn't really have to try as much. So now people are coming from other cities, and we've even had people coming out of state to come visit us because so-and-so told me about this museum, or they saw us on social media or something like that. So that's really great.
Thank you. That sounds amazing. It sounds like, you know, I know we were talking about volunteer appreciation earlier too, and it feels like you have that really excellent balance of, you know, doing specific things towards them, you know, for their own kind of events, but also they're reflected in the space too. And I think that's really important to highlight your community in that way. So thank you. Let's see, last call for questions. If anyone else viewing the webinar has any other things they want to ask. In the meantime, are there any like events that you want to plug, any links you want to pop in the chat? Any last things that you forgot and want to mention? It seems like we've got a question in the chat too. If you could speak to your interview process or selection process, that would be really helpful. We welcome more comments and questions from viewers.
Really quickly, I did want to return to the advice that I could give to a museum that wants to explore. What I kind of developed was kind of weekly check-ins, or at least shiftly check-ins. We do a thing called peaks and valleys, and a peak is kind of like you sharing a very high point in your week, and a valley is something that's kind of low, something that you weren't very excited about. I tell them you don't have to, you know, share anything too personal. It's up to you, and that has kind of opened up the teens a little bit more, and it also is a great team building activity because then they get to know each other anymore. I've noticed that since doing that, the teens do now tend to talk to each other a little more and actually have conversations. So I would, again, treating them as humans really makes them shine.
Sometimes they get a little sad when Daniel doesn't want to do peaks and valleys. They're like, no, we're doing it. We're doing it. We're going to tell you. As for the interview process, we do have a series of questions we do ask volunteers, like, why do you want to volunteer with us? what are your strengths and weaknesses? What are your favorite subjects in school? And then at the end, we do also ask for their schedule availability, if they have any extracurricular activities. Because there's times where we also ask, how long do you plan to volunteer here? If they only want to volunteer here for a month, we don't really see that as anything that's going to benefit us or them, because it's going to take us about a month to train them, to kind of get them on the same schedule. So we do definitely ask that question, because there was some volunteers, for example, in the summer, they were like, oh, I only want to volunteer in June, and that's it. It's like, well, it is June right now, so I'm not really sure how much you're going to be able to volunteer. So those volunteers, we do usually ask them, like, okay, if you want to volunteer again in the fall, we definitely would have your application on hand, but just let us know what your availability is going to be then. And in the beginning, since Daniel was new, I did sit in with him during the interview process. Now he does them on his own. But there is times if he does need me to be there, I'll definitely step in and do the interview with him. But other than that, he kind of takes it on, and I trust him to use his own judgment to see if the teams are going to be a good fit with us or not. And then I do see that there's a question about what our museum attendance. It just depends on the time of year, honestly, what our attendance is like. Of course, this summer we had like over 1,000 people come to the museum, but during the year it kind of falls down a little bit. We get maybe between 400 to 500 people a month, depending on also the big events that we have, like throughout the week. It's usually guests that come or parents that are picking up educational kits. So our attendance definitely fluctuates throughout the year. The summer is always our busiest time of the year, but we also do have our winter events that seem to be very popular as well. So I would say it definitely depends, but between maybe on an average month, we get about 300 to 400 people in and out of the museum.
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting too, because one day Steve and I will just be working and then kind of running around trying to get things done, and then we'll have 20 people for the day, and it's like, whoa, like we did not expect that, and we won't even have anything going on. Just the other day, we actually, it's really nice to see that we do have people with special needs coming in a lot to visit and do the scavenger hunt. So it's also nice to provide a safe space for other marginalized communities as well. And that also helps us with attendance as well, then reaching out to other communities.
Yeah, because they can just come to the museum. They don't have to worry about being too quiet. We're such a small museum. It's okay if they're loud, or we do pull out our curiosity cart as well for them, so they can like explore the different objects that we have in that cart. So it just depends on the audience that's coming in as well. And we're always happy to share our back room as well. If people want to see behind the scenes, we're always happy to show them like how our collection space looks like. It's not big, but it shows them like what we're working with. So yeah, we're always really open to whatever groups coming in. Sometimes there have been times where people are like, here's a whole retirement home, can you guys give us a tour today? And we're like, okay, we're gonna do this. And there's times where that does happen and our teams are around. We're like, do you feel comfortable enough to do it? And then they're like, yes, I'll take it on. So then they're able to get that opportunity to do some public speaking, which is awesome, because not only do our audience get the opportunity to hear some amazing facts about Arcadia, but also our teams get the opportunity to feel confident enough to lead these tours to the community. Yeah. And I guess, as we mentioned earlier, if you are interested in us giving you any copies of our documents, we're always happy to help you all. I'll put our email in the chat for you guys. So you guys you're always welcome to email us. We do have Dino Day coming up this Saturday, August 19th from 1:30 to 3:30. It is a drop-in program, so you're all welcome to join us. We do also collaborations with smaller museums as well. So the ALF Museum in Claremont will be joining us and bringing some fossils for our community to see here in Arcadia. Daniel's going to be starting off our new preschool program, which is amazing. So in the fall, we're going to be having that program available on a weekly basis on Fridays for the community. Again, all our programs are free. You're always welcome to just stop on by and check us out as well with our new exhibits.
Also, please do follow us on Instagram and Twitter. We're working on developing more of a social media presence, so any support is definitely appreciated. I will link our handles in the chat. Yeah, feel free to reach out as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much to both of you, Stevie and Daniel. This was an awesome session. I missed it at the CAM conference, so I'm glad I got to, be on be on this end and hear your content again. Thank you so much for sharing about your team programs. And yeah, this is the final Lunch and Learn in our summer Lunch and Learn series with California Association of Museums. So we thank you all of the participants for joining us as well. And you can catch the recording on our YouTube. You'll get a follow-up email when it is ready. Save the date. Our CAM conference for 2024 is happening in Long Beach, March 10th through 13th. We've got some local folks. Maybe we'll see them at the CAM conference as well. So thank you to all of you for joining us today. I hope you got to eat your lunch while you were watching and enjoying this program. You can also reach out to me with any questions at programs@calmuseums.org. We do have like a post-evaluation survey that I'll send out in a follow-up email too. We love to hear feedback about how the Lunch and Learn is going, any comments that you might have or suggestions for how we run these free summer programs. So thank you all again for joining us. We'll go ahead and end our session here. Thank you again, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Take care all.